From sea to shining sea, America's favorite uncle, Bumpkin Bob.
Hey y'all, this is Bumpkin Bob coming to you from the Bumpkin Studios here in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. It has been a rough week this week. I know I don't have to tell you guys working construction. Man, the wind has blown up here all week. You're not fighting the cold this week, you're just fighting the wind. We were actually, this whole week, standing light poles, and man, in the wind, it's tough to do. Those things, you wouldn't think something that heavy could get away from you in the wind, but it can. Oh my God. I shouldn't be negative, I know. But let me give you people a little piece of advice from an electrician. If you work in an office building and say, hypothetically, they have added on to the parking lot, and so, because you need more parking spaces, because things are tight. And you show up in the morning, 8, 9 o'clock, and we'll say the electricians, for instance, have, as we refer to it, scattered. They have placed 6, 8, 12, 14 light poles, and with the heads already bolted to them around the parking lot at what is a concrete pole base, which I'm sure if you've worked at this office, you have watched them digging and pouring these pole bases. But you show up in the morning, and those poles are scattered around. Let me tell you what's fixing to happen. A big-ass fucking boom truck is going to show up. He's going to throw outriggers out, and he's going to set those poles. And he's going to have to keep moving that truck around the parking lot. For God's sakes, use a little common sense, especially you guys that are driving brand new Corvettes and brand new pickup trucks. Don't park right beside the light poles. It's like you are the same people that'll park 15 miles out of the Walmart parking lot to keep anybody from parking beside you, yet you'll park right beside a light pole that's laying on the ground that if you use a little common sense, they're fixing to stand it with a boom truck. Now, honestly, I will be honest with you, safety-wise, I have never seen a boom truck fail. But there's a first for everything. And those things have about a 50-pound ball, or maybe 100 pounds, hanging on the end of that cable. If that thing started free spooling, and let's just say hypothetically again, fell in the center of your brand new Ford F-150 quad cab Platinum Edition 4-wheel drive pickup that's never seen nothing but asphalt, and it fell right in the center of the roof, it would probably blow out all 6 windows, all 4 side glasses, the back glass and the front glass, and the roof would probably be setting about even with the seat. So that's way worse than a car door ding. So just next time you pull in, use your common sense. If they're trenching the pole bases, or they've got a digger truck or a bobcat with an auger and they're digging pole bases, park somewhere else. I know you're saying, most of these people, well, we're riding on the parking lot because parking's tight. Yeah, parking is tight. We understand that. But if you'll give us a little room and let us get done without having to go in the building every hour and go give the receptionist license plate, go, these 3 guys during lunch parked right beside where we're working. Can we get them to move their vehicle? Shit would get done a lot faster. And then you can go using the whole parking lot. That's just a little public service announcement from Bumpkin Bob. That when they're working on your building or your parking lot, use a little common sense. I'll be honest with you. Me and one of the guys that I work with, we were standing there beside this beautiful, and again, it was an F-150 Platinum Edition dark maroon, chrome wheels, really pretty. And I looked at him and I'm like, I'd really like to see that boom raised all the way up and that ball free spool into the center of the roof, just to see what would happen. Because I think it'd be cool as shit. And I bet that sumbitch would never park around a construction site. I bet he'd pull to the building next door to keep from being parked close. This is my week for bitching about construction sites. I guarantee it. Like I said, this week's been rough. It's been windy up here. A little rainy last weekend. Something that happened Friday that just tickled the shit out of me. Not that it was that funny. It's just, to me, it kind of sums up that whole no, that's not true. And I shouldn't say that. Because I personally know people that are in the younger generation that don't fit into this category. But we were sitting working on parking lot lights on two different jobs. One's a little bit further along than what the other one was. One was an addition. The other one, we're just digging the trenches between the pole bases to put our conduit in the parking lot before they start paving and all that stuff. And we had to trench across a high pressure gas line. You call one call, they come out and mark everything. Well, since there was a high pressure gas line running across this property, they wanted to be on site when we dug across it, which meant we couldn't use our trencher. We have to hand dig that. So the guy comes out, and I know he wasn't over 25. He was probably younger than that. But he gets out his little locate stuff, and we show him where we're needing to cross it. He locates it, and his little machine says, well, it's about 12 to 15 inches below the surface. So me and an electrical apprentice grab a couple of shovels and a digging bar. And you construction guys know what I'm talking about. We're digging in red dirt up here in the northwest corner of the state. All the building pads and the parking lots are built on red dirt pads where they dug out the topsoil and then they build this red dirt back in and compact it to a certain compaction. So we're digging and this stuff is rocky. I mean, this red dirt's got rocks from tiny pebbles up to literally the size of basketballs. I mean, this red dirt's it's covered in all that. So we're digging it out. Dig down, we find the tracer wire, and the kid keeps going. He said, I swear it'll be about 3 or 4 inches below that tracer wire. And I finally said, well, because we kept digging straight down. I said, now, it's my understanding that when you have locates done, they tell you it can be 18 inches either side of that locate mark. Well, yeah, that's what we tell people, but he's like, I've never seen it that it's not just right below that tracer wire. So finally, I forget who asked him. I think my boss had walked up about then and asked him, and he'd only been working for the gas company for a year. So I'm sure he hadn't seen too many of them uncovered. So I finally told him, I said, well, to dig any deeper, we're going to have to enlarge this hole. And so we started doing that. And he was kind of mumbling and complaining about how long it's taking. I said, if it's taking too long, you can grab a shovel or this digging bar and help us. Oh, I would, but I'm just not in shape. I started laughing. I looked at him. I said, you mean to tell me you're going to stand right there and say that you can't keep up with a 53-year-old man? I said, that's pretty sad, son. Well, I'm just not in shape. I said, well, do I look like I'm in shape either? Pear shape, I know. Don't give me no bullshit. But we ended up finding the damn thing, and it was literally about 13 inches west of where his tracer wire was. But he was like, oh my, I've never seen that before. And it's like, that's because probably this and one other ditch is all you've ever seen open. I mean, the way you talked, you would have thought you'd worked there for 40 years. Hell, I bet you weren't 22, 23 years old. that's just, the way things go. This younger generation gets these cushy ass jobs, and then they can't keep up with a 53-year-old man. That's pretty sad. That's just my opinion on stuff. I'm gonna give y'all a lot of my opinions today. I'll guarantee you that shit. So anyway, been a rough week, bad weather. There was one pretty good highlight this week that I have to talk about. And we're going to talk about the Razorbacks, and that's just all there is to it. And this week, we took a beating Saturday from Auburn. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew we were going to. So, of course, this week, everybody's up in arms about Brett Bielema's job, Coach B. So, I get home. I listen to, in the mornings, a local radio show here. I'm pretty sure it goes statewide. But, and then I also listen to one in the afternoons that's sports related. And if I told you who these people were, you would know the names. But anyway, so I'm listening to them, and, I try to keep up with what's going on with the Razorbacks. But, and other teams associated, like SEC stuff. But I get home Monday afternoon, and I open Twitter, and bam, there it is. And I don't know how many of y'all saw this, but the coach of Arkansas State, who is Blake Anderson, he spoke at the Touchdown Club in Little Rock, and he told a joke. And it was, I listened to it, and here's the deal. It's an old joke. It's been around for a long time. People have used all different teams with this joke. Basically, the joke is everybody in the room is like a Razorback fan except one person. And in this, he's talking about elementary school that he's reading or goes to and reads for the classes. This one little girl's a Red Wolf fan, which is Arkansas State. And I get tickled just thinking about it. It just tickled the shit out of me when he told it. But she says she's a Red Wolf fan, and the teacher says, well, why are you a Red Wolf fan? She says, because my mom and daddy are Red Wolf fans. And the teacher says, well, if your mom and daddy were losers, what would that make you? And she says, a Razorback fan. Well, the Touchdown Club just exploded. They just howled with laughter. And I'll be honest with you, when it's an old joke. I howled with laughter too. I think I shared it on Facebook, and then I tagged a bunch of people, or not nieces, but nephews, and just people that I know are Arkansas Razorback fans. And it just cracked me up to no end. Then Tuesday on the afternoon sports show, they actually had him call in and talk for a long time. And him and Brett Bielema are big friends. He's going through some personal stuff that Brett and his wife, and actually Brett's mother-in-law, are helping him through. So he told it, I don't know if you'd say in good taste. He told it in good fun. And it's like he said on the show, the radio show, he told a joke last year when he spoke to the Touchdown Club, and it didn't get nearly the airplay this did. Now, it got that airplay because of the situation the Razorbacks are in right now. And I'm telling you the truth. Another thing that's came out this week is there is no pride on that team whatsoever. The talk is right now that he has lost his locker room. Heard some things today from a radio personality here in the state that talked about an ex-Razorback who's playing professional football was here this summer and at fall camp part of the time, and he told him he had lost the locker room before the season ever started. And when a coach does that, they pretty well the writing is on the wall for the season, and they have no pride. There's no pride whatsoever. Somebody said this week they referred to Les Miles and said, when Les Miles was on the hot seat and everybody knew last year he was probably going to lose his job, his players rallied around him and actually played a couple of good games trying to help him keep his job. Well, man, our players are not doing that. They've rocked back on their heels, and I think they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. Like when Brett's going to get fired. The top 10, and I'm not going to go through the whole list. If you want to find it, it's online and you can go find it. But the only one I'm really worried about or care about is Brett Bielema. The top 10 list, ESPN listed their top 10 of coaches on the hot seat, and they've come up with an algorithm of a bunch of different things which gives them a mathematical percentage of him being fired or not at the end of the year. Right now, Bielema is number 7 on that list with a 43% chance of being fired. So he's below a 50% chance of being fired. So, I think really it depends on how these next 5 games go and how he finishes out the season. And I think they're going to have to look at how his players respond the next 5 games too. Another person that talked at the Touchdown Club in Fayetteville Tuesday was Tommy Tuberville, ex-SEC coach. He's from Camden, Arkansas native. Some things he said that stuck with me was, Brett he was not prepared to coach in the SEC. He doesn't have the connections for recruiting in the South. Some things that have really hurt him. But the one thing he said, and again, this is coming from Tommy Tuberville, and I'm sure everybody out there that's listening to this, it's an SEC fan, knows who I'm talking about. He said Arkansas needs to continue to play that game, at least one game at War Memorial Stadium. Booyah, Jeff Long. And I also heard through some of my conversations, there's some people that think Tommy Tuberville, I'm going to make sure I'm saying that so you know which Tommy I'm talking about, is kind of campaigning for the AD job. So maybe we need a top 10 list of athletic directors that are on the hot seat, because I think Jeff Long might be one of them. That's just my opinion. He's the one that made the hire, and I agree with people when they say, Brett he looked good on paper. The whole deal is if you could cover his name up and just read the resume, would you hire that person? And everybody says yes. And all the experts thought he was a good hire. It just hadn't worked out. So I think at the end of this year, we're going to be looking for a new coach. And here's the deal with that. Everybody knows they've moved an early signing date up for recruits to the week before Christmas. So literally, we play our last game of the year, the Friday after Thanksgiving. So there's a month, maybe actually a little less than a month, for either Brett or a new coach to get out there and hit the recruiting circuit. So, with his record this year and our new coach coming in, I think our recruiting class for 2018 is not going to be very good. That's just the way it is. And I think either way, we're looking at rebuilding year, however you want to look at it. Again, some conversations I've had with some people, and I understand what they're saying, that he's just he's not a Power 5 coach, but good God, I sure would like to see Blake Anderson get a shot at it. He's done a pretty good job over at ASU. Another thing came out this week is a guy from the SEC Network says that Brett Bielema and Gus Malzahn are going to get fired. They're both going to get fired. And Gus will end up at the U of A. Now, I don't know that will happen. I think God would have to intervene before Jeff Long would hire Gus Malzahn. I just really believe that. Now, Jeff Long keeps screwing around and doesn't shit or get off the pot, so to speak, as far as Brett Bielema goes. You know, he may be looking for another job himself. So we'll just have to wait and see. One more good note. I will give y'all a good note for the Razorbacks. The men and women both swept the cross-country titles today. So there you go. You know, and it amazes me that in, you know, girls soccer here lately has been great. The track team, whether it's cross-country, indoor, outdoor, man, since the 70s has been awesome. There's numerous national championships in that. Baseball's always been pretty solid. Basketball's coming back. We just can't get football on track. We can compete in the SEC in just about everything but football. And, man, we are falling on our butts with football. All right, let's get off the Arkansas Razorbacks and move on to something else. Yeah, do I want to say this? Yeah, I do. I really, really do. I love ASU. My oldest son went there. I think it's cool. You know, there's been some SEC future coaches went through there that did pretty damn good after they left ASU as far as going into the SEC. That's why I'd like to see Blake Anderson get a shot. But I wish it was still the ASU Indians. I think that was a crock of shit. Getting rid of it, changing their names to the Red Wolves. But that's neither here nor there because it's water under the bridge. Now we're moving on. And let's do a job site tale. And actually, I'm going to do two. And I don't know that you would call these funny. And both of them involve safety issues. And I know here a few weeks ago, I really went off back in September about some safety issues. So I'm going to tell y'all a couple of stories of two things that happened to me early in my career. Maybe help somebody else. If it's an ocean inspector, listen to this. Happened a long time ago. So I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations has ran out. At least I hope it has. Because I'm not going to give you dates now. But we were doing a school in West Fork. And we were actually adding on to an elementary school. Excuse me. But I was running conduit in a room. And that the whole school or the whole addition was block walls. Everything 8-inch cinder block. And they had most of the all the walls, I guess, were done. And they'd set the bar joists on all of them. And on this particular school, the bar joists set right on the walls. They were all load-bearing walls. And then they decked the bar joists for the roof. And basically it was just like a hip roof, just like what you put on a house, only bigger. And it was standing seam metal. Well, in the room I was working in, it was right in the intersection of two corridors. And basically the roof line changed directions right in the center of this room. And they had half the roof decked and the other half not. So anyway, I was running conduit, and here comes a safety violation. Don't hit me up on Twitter or anything like that, because again, it was a long time ago, and I know better now. But I had an 8-foot double step ladder, which means you could go up it from either side. And yes, I was standing on the very top step. And to make matters worse, I was running conduit and then tap conning my one hole straps to the block wall. And I was using a regular cordless drill to drill with a masonry bit to drill my pilot hole for my tap cons. Well, all you guys know, you really need a hammer drill to do that. Didn't have one. Well, I had one, but it was corded, and I didn't want to drag a damn extension cord all over the place. So I was just using my cordless drill. Well, I'm up there trying to push it, and with just a cordless drill, you got to push really hard to drill into that block, and my ladder tipped a little bit. So I let pressure off my drill. My ladder set back up. I went to drilling again and putting pressure on the drill, and I kind of pushed back, and my ladder tipped up again while I let pressure off. Well, my ladder didn't come back on all 4 feet. It just kept falling over. And y'all know, it feels like all this happens in slow motion, but it actually happened pretty fast. As the ladder was falling, I set the drill on top of the block wall. And then it kept falling, and we have what we call our roughing cart, which we keep our material on for running conduit, or couplings, connectors, that kind of stuff. Well, as the ladder was falling, it hit that cart and shoved that cart across that room, and it hit another electrician's ladder and almost knocked him off his ladder. But then when my ladder finally fell and hit the ground, I was sitting in the A of that ladder. A step ladder forms an A. You have your 2 rungs going up and then your braces in the middle. I was sitting my butt in that A part of the ladder. How I got down on that side like that and was sitting on it backwards, I have no earthly idea. But as soon as it hit, man, I jumped up. I looked around, and I knew the other electrician was in the room. He was on the other side running conduit. But there was not only him, but there was a third electrician in the room. And then I looked over, and there was 3 plumbers in the room. And then I looked up, and there was 6 roofers standing there, and all of them saw me do this. And the guy that was on the other ladder when my cart hit it, he's like, "Are you all right, Bob?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Nothing hurt but my pride." And then as soon as I said I was fine, the laughter just exploded. I felt about this tall. It was like, man, I'm a genius when I'm in a room by myself. But I fell that day, and 11 people got to witness that little episode. And then they talked about it the rest of the day. I mean, I heard about 3 different accounts of how I got around on the backside of that ladder and rode it down. I'm not sure any of them are right, because like I said, to me, felt like it was in slow motion, but I'm sure it happened pretty fast. It's crazy. And the other one, which really is even more dangerous because of its location. And I'm going to tell another little story while I'm there. While I'm on top of this roof, something else that happened on this roof. But we were re-roofing an elementary school, and it happened to be here in Siloam Springs. And all of the air conditioning units sit on top of this roof. And there was several big air handlers that were built on heavy steel frames. And then at those air handlers, there was panels up there that were fed from down below. And then the main service of the building, it was an 800 amp service ran across that roof, and it was 4-inch rigid steel conduits. There was 3 of them. So the big air handlers and the panels stayed, and then those 3 conduits stayed. They were their own conduit supports, and all of the compressor units for all the air conditioners in each room got taken off the roof. And then all of the conduit that ran from the panels to those units got taken off the roof. So we're up there demoing, taking all these panels off, or taking all these conduits down. And the apprentice I was working with was during the summer, so we were taking breaks every, I don't know, every hour, hour and a half, getting off the roof and going down in the shade for a minute and then getting drinking water. So I told the apprentice, I said, let's go over and get off the roof. And they had at one corner of the building where there was a little jog, they had set up an extension ladder. Actually, it was my extension ladder, the electricians. We'd set it up and had it tied off properly. But we started towards the extension ladder, and those 3 conduits, the big 4-inch rigid conduits are there, and they're setting off the roof 4 inches, and then their actual outside diameter is about 4.5 or a little more. So, they're setting up about 8 inches off the top of this roof. Well, as we're walking towards them, I'm in front. The heating and air guy says something to me. When he said something, I kept walking, and I should have stopped because these conduits are within maybe 8 or 10 feet of the edge of the roof. But I kept walking, and I just turned to address him. Now, I answered his question, and he said, appreciate it. I said, fine. And when about the time I turned my head back around, I'd reached those conduits, and I tripped over them. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever been on a commercial roof. Like, people think they're flat. There is a little bit of a pitch to them, but they've got heavy foam insulations, what they build that pitch up with, underneath that vinyl membrane or whatever. So this thing's got, at the roof edge about 4 inches, and then it builds up to about 12 in the peak of insulation. Well, when I turned around, I tripped over them conduits, and I mean, I went face first into that roof, just BAM! And I stood up. When I turned around, the little apprentice that was working for us, Justin, who was actually the owner of the company's grandson, he literally was biting his bottom lip. He was like, and his whole body was shaking. He wanted to laugh so bad. But I turned around and I looked at him, and literally he's sitting there doing like this, shaking, biting his bottom lip, and I went, go ahead and laugh, damn it, because I'm all right. And he just busted out laughing. He laughed for 30 minutes. And he's like, one good thing is, at least you didn't fall off the roof. I'm like, yeah, that would have sucked, wouldn't it? Because it's like 20 foot down to the ground. That wouldn't have been good there. Not at all. I mean, I don't know if the producer wants me to keep telling stories or not, but I got one more, and then I'll tell that other little thing that I wanted to tell. On this roof, for whatever reason, they did it this way. When they ran the gas line, they had a 2-inch gas line that went all the way across this roof. And it's a large roof that they tore completely off, so they're putting all new gas line on. So they ran this 2-inch gas line across the roof, and then they came off of it with 1-inch taps going to all the furnaces. Because the furnaces were all mounted in the room, but the taps came through the roof. So they ran all these 1-inch taps to go to these furnaces. And there's like 60 furnaces in this building. And they weren't tied to anything. But the plumbers had their roof supports were literally about 3 foot tall. And they were just this rubber block with 2 pieces of 1/4-inch all thread coming up. And then this rubber boat trailer looking thing that's kind of angled, like a roller, like you see on a V-bottom boat trailer, that this gas pipe just set in. Well, they'd been up there for 2 weeks screwing all this gas pipe together on all these supports. And one of the roofers was walking through, and he went to step over it, and he didn't step high enough, and he tripped on it and pulled probably about a 30-foot section off of its support. So when he did, it was like a domino effect. And that stuff started falling off its supports. And we're talking about probably a 40,000 or 50,000 square foot roof with gas line run over it. All of it fell off its supports. And the little old plumber stood up, and all he could do was just sit there and watch it fall off the supports. And it literally was like a domino effect. It was funny as hell. Oh my God. And anyway, the other story I was going to tell about Justin. I don't know how to say this. An acquaintance lived catty-cornered from this school. And we were up there on the roof, and I happened to glance up one day, and they were coming down the road. I recognized their vehicle. And I told Justin who it was, that acquaintance. I knew him kind of. And I just kind of turned around and wasn't watching him. And he started laughing. I said, "What are you laughing about?" He said, "Well, they waved at you." I said, "Did they really?" He's like, "Yeah, they gave you the one finger wave." I was like, "No, they didn't." And he's like, "Yeah, they did. They really did." I'm like, "I don't believe you, Justin." He's like, "Bob, I swear to God, they did." Whew, man. All right, that's our... Oh my God, I don't know how long I've been talking about job site tales. Those were pretty good ones, though. I really like those. We did good today, people. Woohoo! Some things we've had some talk about this week, some different conversations and part of it started a couple of weeks ago with a conversation with my sister. Her fiance suggested something, and then I've had the conversation a couple times this week and with different people about traditional stuff that we've lost. And it's pretty sad. And I bet if all of us as a collective group put our minds together, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, because the more I've thought about it, the more it seems to me that the loss of these traditional stuff, and I'm talking about things as simple as opening the door for ladies going in and out of, or men. I mean, if I go to a grocery store or like a convenience store, and I'm walking up to the front door and somebody's walking up behind me, I'll open the door and step to the side and let them go in. I'll hold the door open for them. I don't care if they're male or female. It's stuff like that we don't do anymore. Those are the traditional type things that we've lost, and to me, it seems like some of that stuff it doesn't seem like some of it. To me, it seems like all of it is based on morals and manners. Now, I'm sure I'm going to have some people disagree with that, but the more I've thought about it, I mean, it's just seems to me that, especially, I would say the last 20 years, since the year 2000, we'll just say the last 17 years, since the year 2000, we've lost manners, we've lost morals. We've lost morals a lot. I mean, it's just shocking to me, some of the things people do and say and believe. That's another thing. Some of the shit people believe is getting fucking ridiculous. I swear to God, I don't know what they teach our kids in school anymore. It's damn sure not manners. And sometimes I'm not even sure it's common sense stuff. There's a lot of things they don't teach that they should, just to help people get by with daily life. But trying not to get off the subject of things we've lost or traditional things we've done. I mean, you very seldom hear kids, younger kids, say yes sir and no sir and yes ma'am and no ma'am. Now I'll tell you one thing, and it's not because I was mean and whipped my kids if they didn't. But because me and my wife said yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, our kids do the same thing. I mean, our kids are very polite and well mannered. And my kids are adults. I mean, my kids are, after December, they will be 25, 20. No, that's not right. My brain just farted. They will be 24, 26, and 30. Oh my God. I'm not sure. I think I got dementia. I don't know. That was kind of crazy. But my kids are adults. And they still say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. They're polite to people. I've noticed my kids opening doors for people. And that's just something you don't see a lot. I know here back at one of my first shows, I talked about taking your hat off at the table or when you go into a house. I mean, to me, that's manners. While I'm on that subject, because there was one thing I did not talk about when we did that show that has really bothered me ever since, because I meant to say something about it. You 30-something-year-old men that wear your hat turned around backwards like you're 12. It just pisses me the fuck off. Turn your hat around and wear it properly. Wear it like an adult, not like an adolescent. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that is the silliest, stupidest thing I've ever seen. Now, if you're riding a motorcycle, that's one thing. But when you get off your motorcycle, turn it around. Or if you're speeding across the lake in a bass boat, I've done that before myself. You get in a bass boat, you go to take off, you flip that hat around backwards, because what's going to happen? Your bill's going to catch wind and blow off. But when I get to where I'm fishing, I turn my hat back around. That's what I do. And that's what y'all should do. Act like a fucking bunch of moron kids. That part might get edited out. I don't know. My son's kind of hard ass. Anyway, go over. I want y'all to do something for me. If you're watching this, when you watch this, hit us up and let me. I want to know some traditional things that you feel like we've lost. Another thing, we've covered this in another episode about men dressing like men when they go to work. To me, that was a tradition. That was something that, and it wasn't a southern thing or a northern thing. That was just a man thing. You dressed your part. You dressed for work. You wore long pants and shirts. And if you worked in an office, you wore a shirt and a tie. These guys show up in ratty ass t-shirts and shorts, and it just blows my mind. They dress again like they're 12 years old. And to me, that's just a tradition we've lost. I mean, I don't know when and I don't know how, but it's just gone. Hell, 50 years ago, people dressed for dinner. I mean, you didn't come to dinner in, nasty shorts or your nasty work clothes. You got home from work and you took a bath or a shower and then you dressed for dinner. You went in to have dinner. That's what people did. And when they were at dinner, they asked, please pass the mashed potatoes. People don't do that. They're just reaching across the table grabbing shit. It's like, have a little manners. Have some morals about you. Do the right thing when you should do it. That's, people don't consider doing right or wrong. They consider what's doing the best for me right now. And that's leading to me as a, society falling apart. Hell, I don't know any other way to say it. One thing I did want to say today, we're going to move on from the bitching shit. Actually, we're going to end up griping about some other things, but I want to make sure that if you're following me, go over and follow Jan Morgan. She is running for governor of Arkansas. And I think you're going to like what she's got to say. And, man, I thought about this the other day. And I'm going to say it because I really feel like that people the last few years have been voting because somebody fits. It's not because of their political views, it's because they fit some box that people want in a specific area. Like, and I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to have to say it. A lot of people voted for Hillary because she was female, which to me, that is wrong. You should vote for your candidate because they have a good political agenda, not because they're female, or because they're male, or because they're white, or because they're black. There, I said it. Or because they're any other ethnicity. But for you ladies out there who are just want to vote for somebody because they're female, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with Jan Morgan. You know? And there has never been a female governor of the state of Arkansas. There's been a female U.S. senator because we had Blanche Lincoln up there for a few years. Everybody finally realized she is crazy as a Betsy bug. But there's never been a female governor in the state of Arkansas. So if you want to vote for somebody because they're female, go vote for Jan Morgan because I think she's going to do a good job. I really do. That's if all things equal and the election, the next governor's election was held tomorrow, I would vote for Jan Morgan. Period. That's just how it is. Another thing going on political right now is the Big Six, and you can get on the internet and find out who they all are. Paul Ryan's kind of ramrodding that whole thing. Part of their tax reform bill has come out, and they said the whole thing will be released probably in middle of November, towards the end, and probably closer to Thanksgiving. Some of the things that are come out right now is they're going to cut the tax brackets down from 7 brackets to 3, but Paul Ryan then came back and said there may be a 4th one, so that it may not stay at 3. They may bump it back up to 4. Personal deductions are changing. A single person, I think it was like $6,150 last year. That's going to go to $12,000 even. And then for a married couple, it was like $12,000 and some change. That's going to go to a straight $24,000. And I know I've sat down and tried to do some math on some of the stuff and looked at their chart as far as where, what percentage of taxes you would end up paying on your taxable income. And it's going to hurt some people and it's going to help some people. So everybody's going to have to wait. I don't see it being in place for this year. Probably be in place for 2018, and then it would affect your filing when you file for your 2018 taxes in 2019. You have to wait till then to kind of see each individual how that's going to help or hurt. The one thing I did like about what I've read so far is the damn estate tax is going to go away, which to me has always been stupid. A man or a woman or a couple works their whole life to build up a farm or a business or a nest egg, and they've been paying taxes on this, on their farm or their nest egg for the last 50 years anyway. Everything there has already been taxed and has been taxes paid on it. And then when they die and pass it on to their children, boom, the government comes in and says, we're going to need 40% of that. That is stupid, people. It's like, then you got people, and we've all heard the horror stories, that have to sell the family farm to pay the damn estate taxes. Who has that served? That hadn't served anybody. If they didn't have that estate tax, a son or a daughter or a grandchild would probably step into that farm and take it over and keep producing food and be a family farm in this country. And it's like, I don't see where that tax was even reasonable. I mean, oh my God, if that's not taxation without representation, I don't know what is, which we're getting into a lot of now. And this goes back, I'm going to say this, because I said a few weeks ago, I talked about the fact about, I don't care if you get what you want or you think you want something or need something and you go to the Congress or whatever, your little group, and you get it. And I talked about, don't point at me to pay for it. And it's like, that's what taxes are doing. I mean, every time one of y'all go up there and you want something, they bump this tax. Every one of us knows this. We pay personal property taxes. We pay real estate taxes. And sales tax. Pay sales tax on every fucking thing you buy. And it's, all these cities and counties and municipalities and states, we need just a half a cent sales tax. And most sales tax that I know of in and around Benton and Washington County, depending on what city you're in, is in that 9.5% to 10.5% range right now. So that means on every dollar you spend, you're paying, 10 cents in sales tax. Man, I can remember when I was a kid in the 70s, sales tax was like 2% and 3%. It was crazy that it's gone. People will say, well, over 40 years, Bob, that's not too bad with inflation. It's like bullshit. That is fucking bullshit. I'm still a proponent that if you'll quit taxing people so much, they'll spend more. So you get, if you take a little bit instead of a lot, then people would spend more, and that little bit that you're getting would go a lot further. And we would feel like we're not being taxed to fucking death. Had this conversation several times with several different people. And it's funny how everybody seems to kind of have the same thing. It's like, oh, and that's something else. Because the tax reform, we're going to touch on this both sides. Tax reform is going to do away with a lot of the itemized deductions. You're still going to be able to itemize if you're paying mortgage interest. But they're going to do away with most of the other itemized deductions. And to me, it's like, well, let's not stop there. Let's do away with the personal deductions and everything else and just say, okay, either the government's going to have, the U.S. government is going to have a flat sales tax of 1% on fucking everything, or whatever that needs to be. Or we're going to have a flat tax on your salary and say, without all the personal deductions and the itemized deductions and everything else that goes along, just say, well, we're going to take a flat 3% or 5%, whatever mathematically that comes out to. We're going to take that out of your check every time you get a paycheck. And then you don't have to file income tax forms, and we're not going to come beating on your door wanting more. This is what it is. You don't have to file every year, so you're not going to end up at the end of the year either owing or getting a refund. We're just going to call it even, call it good, and go on about it. Which means, as well it should, our government needs to learn, like the rest of us and a bunch of people I know who don't yet, learn to live within their means. That's just how it is. You get this many hundreds of billions of dollars in tax money a year. Don't spend more than that. It's all you got. When some special interest group comes up there wanting something and you want to give it to them, you got to cut something else. Bottom line, you got to live within your means. I think we need to have defense spending, of course. I mean, we got that little Jing Jong Canoe or whatever his name is over in Korea we got to deal with. But, and we need to take care of our elderly and our young. But some of this other shit needs to go away. We need to start cracking down on people that are abusing these systems. That's getting ridiculous. I mean, that's just all there is to it. There are people taking advantage of the welfare system and every other system. There are people out there that actually need that. There are people that actually need to be on disability that are getting it or don't get it. There are people that need welfare that may not be getting it. But in the same token, there are people that are abusing those systems. We need to crack down on that. There's some other abuses that I'm going to talk about in some future episodes that have been brought to my attention that just really piss me off, and we'll talk about those later. But to me, that's how I think the income tax thing should go. And the more I read on it, we'll discuss it on this show even more. Again, the actual whole reform bill that they're trying to put together should be out sometime around or before Thanksgiving, and we'll be able to take a look at it in its entirety and see kind of where the cuts are going to be made or not made, and whether it's in. And actually what I may do is I'll get out my income tax from last year and kind of go over it, and then look at if I was under the Reform Act last year, where would I have fallen, kind of see how that would relate and kind of give something for people to relate to as far as what I've got more back, paid more last year. We'll just see. As of now, the earned income tax credit is still going to be there. So don't want people with kids getting too freaked out yet. Again, let's wait to really put our stamp of approval or our stamp of this is bullshit on it until the whole thing comes out. It'll be interesting to see that other tax bracket that Paul Ryan was talking about is like a upper tax bracket for millionaires. So we'll have to wait and see kind of where that's going, what he's thinking. Not real sure there. But again, like I said, they're taking it from 7 down to 3, but they may add 1 back in, I guess is how I should have said it. That's basically what's going on. Man, to wrap up for this week, we talked about the Razorbacks. I told you about my rough week. I've been tired. I've been so tired. I gave y'all a public service announcement about parking in construction zones. Don't do it. That's the best I can tell you. Don't do it. Oh my God, I got to tell this real quick because since I'm telling about that. Literally, we called the crane service to set these 6 poles yesterday. He's going to be there yesterday afternoon, so we had everything ready. And were set up in the parking lot, and the crane operator got tickled. But this lady in a minivan, she was, he's got the big outriggers on this boom truck out, and he swung over. The truck is setting north and south, pointed south. And we're actually working on the east side of the truck. That's where we're standing, parking lot lights. But he's sitting right in the middle of the parking lot. And then on the west side of the truck, there's vehicles parked over there. And when he stuck his outriggers out, there was barely room between the outrigger and those parked cars for a vehicle to go through. And this lady in a minivan, by God, she was determined she was going through there. And when she went through, I just went, "That's okay, lady, just run over the outrigger." And then the boom truck operator got tickled. He's like, "She's determined to get through here, wasn't she?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, she was." I'm like, nothing was going to stop her, even if she dented her minivan all down the side on that big old outrigger stuck out there. And God knows I'm blind as a bat. I could see the outrigger, so I know she could have seen it. There's no way she could, if she had hit it, that she would have went, "Well, I didn't see it." And not that it would have been funny, but it's like, I don't know, while we had that pole hanging, it's a 20-foot pole, 22 foot, I guess. I don't know. We'll call it a 20-foot pole. 18, 20 foot, something like that. And you got to lift it a little ways to get it up on the pole base and over the anchor bolt. So we probably had it 30 foot in the air, or the boom stuck up 30 foot in the air. It was like, man, if she'd have hit that outrigger, I don't know what that would have done. It would have been crazy. Anyway, like I said, she's determined to go around that damn truck. So be mindful of that. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, follow us, join the Bumpkin Army. Please join the Bumpkin Army. Please, 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 please send me your job site tales. Funny shit happens on your job. I want to know about it. Again, if you hit us up over there on the Bumpkin Army, the name Blake Anderson as the next head coach kind of got thrown at me last Saturday. The more I've thought about it, the more I like it. So if you've got an idea, and don't say Lane Kiffin. I don't want to hear that bullshit. But if you kind of think about it, hit us up on the Bumpkin Army page over there. Let us know what you're thinking about next head coach for Razorbacks, because I'll be honest, I don't think Brett's going to make it any very much longer. I kind of gave you a little bit of traditional stuff that we're losing. Hit me up with some stuff if you think of it. We'll try to get it on air, and then kind of gave y'all my opinion of taxes. They kind of suck. I think we pay too many of them. Hopefully the full report will come out, and we'll be able to read through that and give y'all some idea of what that's looking like. Again, have a good weekend. The Hogs play later. Play Ole Miss this week. One thing before we get out of here, I noticed the other day on Facebook somebody posted, and I think it was on Twitter too, but I don't know if y'all remember the last time we played Ole Miss away was the year, this is 2017, it would have been 2015, I guess. If that's right, 2015 or 2014, then Hunter Henry did the lateral back over, and we ended up running in for a touchdown for a win, so maybe we can get blessed with some miracles like that, because that was a miracle play there, buddy. Anyway, this is Bumpkin Bob, and we were out for the Saturday.